Hello, guys. Another important document has been uploaded in the PIB website. That's very, very important. India AI governance guidelines. Okay. Remember, definitely, I'm expecting a question in the mains on these India AI governance guidelines because very recently they have been released. A committee has been appointed, and the committee somewhere around June, July 2025, and the committee has given its recommendations. So it's in the news, and everything is happening about the AI, artificial intelligence, and there are several unanswered questions around the governance of AI. So in this area, definitely in this scenario, definitely AI and rules and regulations, or you know a law also, we may be here discussing something, we might be focusing on a act or law also to actually govern the artificial intelligence sector in our country. Okay, so in that context, these guidelines becomes very, very important. You have to remember one thing, that is, no act is there right now with respect to artificial intelligence in our country. So in this backdrop, there is a gap. There is a gap with respect to the technology that is emerging and the governance of it. There is a gap. So always UPSC tries to ask the question where this gap is there. That gap they will try and in that gap they will try and ask the question. So this will become a potential area for asking the question, especially in the mains examination. So please focus, and that too I'm trying to cover it in detail. Each and every aspect I'll try to cover and explain. So please make sure that you are getting all the required information, all the important information from this document. Okay, so it's the document is about India AI governance guidelines. Very recently the committee has given its recommendations to the government, and they have been published. So we will in detail we will see the actually the report. It has been divided into four parts. All those parts we will see. Okay, so some key takeaways are there. The key takeaways are: India adopts a principle-based AI governance framework that is rules and regulations anchored in seven sutras or in seven principles to enable safe, trusted, and inclusive AI innovation across the sectors. Second key takeaway is the guidelines recommends establishment of new national institutions, including AI governance group, technology and policy expert committee, and AI safety institutes. So these two new institutes are going to come up in our country. Then, if you see the third key takeaway, that is AI governance guidelines prioritizes innovation over restraint, positioning AI as a key catalyst for inclusive growth, competitiveness, and the vision of Viksit Bharat 2047. These are the key takeaways. If you see the introduction for this document or for the topic, we know very well AI has emerged as the defining force of the fifth industrial revolution. And at the same time, India articulated a clear, ambitious vision, that is, to build the full AI stack, means every capability related to AI we should have. Okay, that is AI stack. Then that is anchored in national priorities. Okay, if you see India's AI strategy, it's not confined to technological prowess alone. It is rooted in democratization, scale, and inclusion. These are the keywords. Okay. The objective is to ensure that AI is not concentrated in a handful of forms or geographies, but diffused across agriculture, healthcare, education, governance, manufacturing, and climate action. If you go little bit, backwards, few years back, the Niti Aayog, okay, Niti also published a paper as to how the AI can be utilized in all these sectors. Okay, five to six sectors. You try and read that document also. How AI is going to help agriculture, health, etc. Okay. Apart from that, by focusing on AI for all, okay, India seeks to combine sovereign capability with open innovation, leveraging public digital infrastructure, then indigenous model of development, and affordable compute to drive productivity and inclusive growth. Okay. You see India's achievements in this field. Okay, they reflect this deployment first philosophy. They reflect the deployment first philosophy, that is, under India AI mission, over 38,000 GPUs. You know, GPUs are very critical for this artificial intelligence, okay, machines. They have been onboarded through a subsidized national compute facility, right? Apart from that, AIKosh is there. Kosh is there, that now hosts more than 9,500 datasets and 273 sectoral models. In this way, it is strengthening indigenous model development. Apart from that, we have a national supercomputing mission, and that has operationalized 40 plus petaflop systems, including Airavat and Param Siddhi AI. These are our latest supercomputers. Okay. You see, on the capacity front, if you see India AI and future skills initiatives, these are two initiatives are there. They are supporting 500 PhDs, 5,000 postgraduates, and 8,000 undergraduates. This is all related to human resource in AI. Okay, while 570 AI data labs are there, and 27 India AI labs are also there across various states, and they are further expanding the grassroots innovation in our country. Okay, this is the significance, and this is what we are doing with respect to human resource. Okay, if you see the guidelines, the present guidelines, India AI governance guidelines, realizing in AI Impact Summit 2026, they arrive at a critical juncture to consolidate all the gains that we have done or achieved until now. Okay, these guidelines are anchored in 7 guiding sutras, and the framework, the guidelines framework, it adopts a principle-based techno-legal approach. Okay, by establishing new institutions, I have mentioned in the key takeaways, by establishing those institutions such as AI Governance Group, the Technology and Policy Expert Committee, and the AI Safety Institute, India is institutionalizing a whole of government model that balances innovation with safeguards. Okay, you see, altogether, these guidelines that have been recently released, they strengthen India's ambition to lead not only in AI adoption and capability, but also in responsible, inclusive, and a trusted AI governance globally. Okay, right. So this is important information that you have to know about AI, governance guidelines. Okay. Then, if you see India's AI governance philosophy, okay, if you see the philosophy, right, India seeks to harness the transformative potential of artificial intelligence for inclusive development and global competitiveness, at the same time addressing the risks that may be posed to individuals as well as society. Okay, to advance this objective, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology (MeitY), it constituted a drafting committee in July 2025. So this is the committee I was talking about. Okay, the committee was appointed to develop a framework for a governance in our country. Okay, the committee was mandated to draw on existing laws and revive global developments and examine available literature and incorporate public feedback in framing suitable governance guidelines. Okay, so based on the deliberations the committee has done, okay, the committee presented the AI governance framework in 4 parts. These 4 parts we are going to study. So in these 4 parts, the first part sets out the 7 sutras that ground AI governance philosophy in our country. Second part examines key issues and offers recommendations. Third part presents action plan, and the fourth part provides practical guidelines for industry actors and regulators to ensure consistent and responsible implementation of the recommendations. Okay. So these are the 7 sutras we will see just. Okay. But you can glance the 7 sutras. Okay. So we will enter into part one. Part one is about the key principles that are governing the AI in our country. So the key principles of AI governance framework, they have been carefully designed to ensure cross-sectional applicability and technology neutrality, enabling relevance across diverse use cases and stages of technological evolution. Okay. First sutra is trust in the foundation. Very, very important. You at least try to remember the names of the principles, 7 sutras or 7 principles. First one is trust in the foundation. So, trust is essential to support innovation, adoption, and progress, as well as risk mitigation. We know it very well. So, without trust, the benefits of artificial intelligence will not be realized at a scale. That is also true. So, trust must be embedded across value chain, i.e., means from in the underlying technology, the organizations building these tools, the institutions are responsible for supervision, and the trust that individuals will use these tools responsibly. So trust shall be there across the board from the beginning to the end. Okay. So therefore, trust is the foundational principle that guides AI, all AI development and deployment in our country. So trust is the foundation. Trust is the foundation. That is the first principle. Second principle is people first. Okay. So AI governance should place people at the center, right? Remember that AI systems must be deployed and developed and deployed in ways that strengthen human agency and reflect societal values, right? Now, you see, from a governance standpoint, this requires that humans retain meaningful control over AI systems wherever possible, supported by effective human oversight. So, AI should not overpower human beings. So, people first principle is rooted in that philosophy. Okay, further, if you see, a people first approach also emphasizes capacity building, ethical protections, and safety considerations. Okay, that is the second principle. Then, if you see the third principle, innovation over restraint. Okay, so innovation should win over restraint. That is the third principle. You see, AI-led innovation is a pathway to achieving national goals such as socio-economic development, global competitiveness, and resilience. Okay, therefore, AI governance frameworks should actively encourage adoption and serve as a catalyst for impactful innovation. Okay, that said, innovation should be carried out responsibly and should aim to maximize overall benefit while reducing potential harm. Okay, all other things being equal, responsible innovation should be prioritized over cautionary restraint. So that is the third principle. Then if you see fourth principle, that is fairness and equity, you see in our country, which has several socio-economic and political inequalities, fairness and equity becomes very, very important. Okay. Right. So that's why this principle is also incorporated. You see, promoting inclusive development is a central objective of India's AI governance approach. So AI systems, therefore, be designed and evaluated to ensure fairness and to avoid bias or discrimination, particularly against marginalized communities. Okay, you know very well there was discriminations against SC/ST communities, many other social groups in our country. The point is that AI shall also not be showing this discrimination. Okay, so equity should be there. So social divisions that are there in our society, they shall not be reflected in the AI. That is the principle here. Fifth principle is accountability. You see, to ensure India's AI ecosystem progress based on trust, AI developers and deployers, they should remain visible and accountable. Right. Then accountability should be clearly assigned based on the function performed, risk of harm, and due diligence conditions imposed. Accountability may be ensured through a variety of policy, technical, and market-led mechanisms. This is the fifth principle. Then, if you see the sixth principle, that is understandable by design. Okay, accountability, fifth principle, you see, it may not look very normal for you, but it's accountability and transparency, they are also very, very important. Okay, we come to the sixth principle, that is understandable by design, right? You see, understandability is fundamental to building trust and should be a core design feature, not an afterthought. Okay, so when we are designing the AI, then itself we shall be in a position to understand the consequences, impact, everything, right? Then we should not later we should worry that how we have to understand this system, what are the impacts are going to be. Okay, that shall not be the case, right? You see, though the AI systems are uh, probabilistic, they must have clear explanations and disclosures to help users and regulators understand how the system works, what it means for the user, and likely outcomes intended by the entities deploying them to the extent technically feasible. So this is the sixth principle. Then if you see the seventh and final principle, that is safety, resilience, and sustainability. Of course, it is also very, very important. Um, you see, AI systems should be designed with safeguards to minimize risks of harm and should be robust and resilient. Okay, there are a lot many concerns about the safety of AI systems. In that scenario, this principle becomes very, very important. You see, these systems, AI systems, should have capabilities to detect anomalies and provide early warnings to limit harmful outcomes. Then further, AI development efforts should be environmentally responsible and resource efficient, and the adoption of smaller, resource efficient, lightweight models should be encouraged. Okay, this is the seventh principle. If you have to summarize the significance of these seven principles, together these seven principles establish a coherent and balanced AI governance framework that enables innovation while safeguarding the trust, equity, and accountability. Okay, that is the significance of these seven principles, right? Then we will come to the second part of the report, that is key issues and recommendations. You see, to me, this part looks very, very important, or I feel that this part is very, very important because here the recommendations of the committee are there. Okay, right. So key challenges or issues the committee has identified, and it gave recommendations as to how to address them, right? So if we go to the details, using the seven principles or sutras as guidance, the committee recommends an approach to AI governance that fosters innovation, adoption, and scientific progress, while proposing measures to mitigate the risks to individuals and communications. Okay, it is made based on six principles. Okay, India's six pillars. Earlier, seven principles we have seen. Now, six principles of India's AI governance framework. Those are infrastructure, capacity building, policy and regulation, risk mitigation, accountability, and institutions. So each and every area the committee has taken is these six pillars, and it listed the existing things that are already there in our country, and further it has made some recommendations as to how to further improve them. So one by one, all these six pillars we will examine. Okay, so first pillar is infrastructure. Right. India's AI governance framework seeks to promote innovation and large scale adoption while mitigating social risks. So, under the India AI mission, significant progress has been made in strengthening core infrastructure, including improved access to compute and databases or data sets, development of foundational models, and deployment of AI applications, and building on digital public infrastructure, and enhanced data sharing and safety testing. Okay. You see, to sustain this momentum, continued investment in scalable infrastructure, equitable access to compute and data, and a strong institutional capacity will be essential. Okay. So, in that context, some foundational AI infrastructure ecosystem has been identified by the committee. So, the identified things are these: 38,000 plus GPUs onboarded and under AI India AI mission. The target is 1 lakh GPUs. Okay. And these 38,000 GPUs are subsidized access, provide subsidized access via India AI compute portal. Means people can use them, right, to develop a AI model. Okay. Then AIKosh hosting 9,500 plus data sets and 273 sectoral models. Third one is National Supercomputing Mission, which has developed 40 plus petaflops machine, including Airavat and Param Siddhi AI. Then ongoing AI integration with the digital public infrastructure. This is the existing infrastructure, foundational infrastructure for AI ecosystem in our country. The committee further recommends that, you see, this part is very, very important. The recommendations of the committee. The recommendations are empowering India AI mission and governments to expand AI adoption through infrastructure and compute access. Second recommendation related to infrastructure is improving data availability and sharing through strong data governance and portability standards. Third recommendation is promoting locally relevant databases or data sets to develop culturally representative AI models. Means they shall be resembling our Indian culture. Okay, not some European and American culture. That is the significant aspect here. Other recommendation is ensuring access to evaluation data sets and compute for AI deployment and safety testing. The last recommendation is integrating AI with the DPI, digital public infrastructure, and to enable scalable and inclusive development. These are the recommendations of the committee with respect to further developing the AI infrastructure. Then you might be wondering, what is digital public infrastructure? You see things like Aadhaar. Aadhaar is one best example of digital public infrastructure. Okay. Examples are Aadhaar, UPI, DigiLocker, government e-marketplace, GEM portal is there. Then Umang, PM Gati Shakti. These are all the best examples of digital public infrastructure. Okay. Right. Definition we will see. It refers to foundational digital systems that are accessible, secure, and interoperable, supporting essential public services. Those are called as digital public infrastructure. Right? Then second pillar we will see, that is capacity building. Okay. So India has launched multiple AI capacity building initiatives, including India AI Future Skills, then Future Skills Prime, and higher education programs, laying a strong foundation for an AI ready workforce. Okay. As AI adoption accelerates, further scaling these efforts will help meet the demands of inclusive growth and broader access. So, second area the committee has focused on is capacity building. Means we should have human resource to, properly develop and deploy AI, artificial intelligence in our country. So the committee has identified existing AI human resource and innovation capacity. If you see that, the ongoing initiatives such as India AI, Future Skills, they are supporting 500 PhDs, 5,000 PGs, and 8,000 undergraduate students. Second, existing resources, AI data labs network. It consists of 570 labs across tier 2 and tier 3 cities to build grassroots AI capabilities through training in data annotation, curation, and applied AI skills. Third one is AI linked curriculum is integrated under National Education Policy 2020. Then next one, 27, India AI data and AI labs established. Plus, along with that, 174 ITIs approved across 27 states and UTs. Then Yuva AI for all, free foundational course launched for mass AI literacy in our country. Okay. Added to these things, the committee further recommends that enhancing public awareness and trust in AI through regular training programs and awareness campaigns that has to be done. Training government officials and regulators to support informed procurement and responsible AI use. Third recommendation is building capacity of law enforcement agencies to detect and address AI enabled crimes. The next one is expanding AI skilling initiatives in vocational institutes and tier 2 and tier 3 cities. That also has to be taken up. Then third area we will see, that is policy and regulation. This is also very, very important. You see, the objective of the AI governance approach is to promote innovation, adoption, and technological progress, while at the same time ensuring that risks to individuals and the society are mitigated across the AI value chain. Okay, a review of the existing legal framework comprising of constitutional provisions, statutes, means laws, then rules, regulations, and guidelines across domains such as information technology, data protection, and intellectual property, competition, media, employment, consumer protection, and criminal law, indicates that many AI related risks can be addressed under current laws. So the committee has identified several laws through under which the issues that are going to crop up with AI can be addressed. So first one is India AI Mission 2025 for AI sovereignty, democratization and compute access, indigenous model development, and a responsible AI capacity building. All these things can be taken care under India AI Mission. Then the most important IT rules 2021 are there. You see amendments to provide the baseline intermediary liability structure and enforcement backbone for AI related harms within existing digital regulation. See, IT Act is there. IT Act 2000 is there. Under that, IT rules 2021 have been issued. The committee is saying that many of the AI related harms can be addressed within these amended rules. Then Digital Personal Protection Act 2023, that is also there. Right. You see, it is to support accountability and lawful AI deployment by regulating personal data processing, consent, and fiduciary obligations. Okay. Fiduciary means the intermediary. Okay. Then the information technology intermediary guidelines and digital media ethics code rules 2026. They are about to come, and they are for AI generated and deep fake content. Okay, these are the existing policy foundations for responsible AI. The committee further recommends that adopting a balanced and agile and principle based AI governance framework that builds on existing laws that we require. Second one, reviewing the current legal framework to identify AI related risks and regulatory gaps. Third one is introducing targeted legislative amendments to clarify issues of classification, liability, data protection, and copyright. Then the next recommendation is develop deployment of common standards and benchmarks for content authentication, data integrity, cyber security, and fairness. Next recommendation is enabling expert-led guidance through the AI governance group, AIGG, with the support from the Technology Policy and Expert Committee. Next one is using regulatory sandboxes to test emerging AI technologies in controlled environments. Next recommendation is strengthening international and multilateral engagement on AI governance issues. And the last recommendation is conducting horizon scanning and foresight exercises to keep regulation responsive to future AI developments. These are the recommendations of the committee. The fourth area is risk mitigation. You see, risk mitigation is central to translating policy and regulatory principles into practical safeguards that prevent or reduce harm from AI systems. Okay. Moreover, given that AI systems are probabilistic, generative, adaptive, and agentic, they can introduce the new risks or amplify the existing ones across individuals, markets, and the society. So, in this scenario, these risks include malicious use of uses such as AI enabled misinformation and cyber attacks, bias and discrimination arising from inaccurate or unrepresentative data, then transparency failures in the use of personal data, then systematic risks linked to market concentration and geopolitical instability, loss of control over AI systems, and threats to national security and critical infrastructure. Okay, so the vulnerable groups like differently abled people, children, women, scheduled caste, scheduled tribal people, all these groups, they face heightened exposure to these harms, particularly children through exploitative recommendation systems, and women who are disproportionately targeted by AI generated deep fakes. Okay, so the presence of a structured mechanism to systematically collect, analyze, and learn from AI related incidents would equip policymakers, regulators, and institutions to anticipate the emerging risks, design appropriate safeguards, and ensure accountability across the sectors. Okay, so existing risk mitigation, aspects have been identified the committee. First one is in certain is there India Computer Emergency Response Team. Certain, it is a national agency for cyber incident response, coordination, and real-time threat advisories. Then I4C is also there, the Indian Cybercrime Coordination Center. It is established to combat cybercrime in a coordinated and comprehensive manner. Then NCIIPC is there, National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center. It is a nodal body for safeguarding critical information infrastructure across strategic sectors. Then bodies like Reserve Bank of India, SEBI, uh, Insurance and Regulatory Development Authority, IRDA, IRDAI, etc. There are sectoral regulators are there for enforcing domain specific technology, cyber security, and risk management norms. Then National Cyber Coordination Center is there, NCCC, which is it strengthens real-time cyber threat monitoring and situational awareness, while Data Protection Board of India, this is established under the Digital Personal Data Protection Act of 2023. It serves as the statutory enforcement body for data protection compliance and accountability. Right? These are the existing risk mitigation institutions. Further, the committee advises or recommends that developing an India-specific AI risk assessment and classification framework with a focus on vulnerable groups, that has to be done. Second recommendation is establishing a national federated AI incident reporting mechanism to track harms and inform oversight. Third recommendation is encouraging proportionate vulnerability risk mitigation frameworks through standards, audits, and incentives. Fourth recommendation is embedding transparency, fairness, and security by design using appropriate techno-legal measures. Last one is mandating human oversight and safeguards to mitigate loss of control risks in sensitive and critical sectors. These are the recommendations of the committee. right? Fifth pillar we will see, that is accountability. Okay, you see, accountability is the backbone of AI governance, yet ensuring the accountability in practice, it's a challenging. Many AI related risks can be addressed under existing laws, but their effectiveness depends on predictable and timely enforcement. This is the critical aspect. You see, firms need meaningful pressure to comply, while regulators require visibility into organizational practices and the AI value chain. In this scenario, the current voluntary framework lacks legal enforceability, and there is insufficient clarity on how liability should be attributed across developers, deployers, and end users. Okay, you see, further, users lack accessible and effective grievance redressal mechanisms, and transparency in AI system design, data flows, and organizational decision making remains limited. Okay, then AI systems probabilistic and adaptive nature may also generate unexpected outcomes, requiring a governance approach that balances enforcement with the space for responsible innovation. Okay, in this context, the existing accountability and compliance mechanisms, if we see, the IT Act 2000 is there. It provides the foundational legal framework governing digital intermediaries, cyber offenses, and platform liability across AI value chain. Then Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023 is also there. This establishes consent-based data processing, fiduciary obligations, and accountability standards for AI systems handling personal data. Then the IT Rules 2021 and IT Amendment Rules 2026, they provide grievance redressal mechanisms and expedited takedown timelines for AI generated and synthetic content harms, right? These are the existing mechanisms. Give me 1 second. Right. Added to these, the committee further recommends that uh, clarifying applicability of existing laws to AI across the value chain, right? Um, Across the value chain through guidance notes for master circulars. Second recommendation is implementing graded obligations and liability proportional to function, risk, and due diligence of AI actors. Third recommendation is strengthening enforcement and accountability mechanisms, including transparency reports, audits, and self certifications. Fourth recommendation is mandating accessible grievance redressal mechanisms with clear feedback loops and timely resolution. And the last one is improving transparency of the AI value chain to enable effective regulatory oversight. These are the recommendations of the committee, right? Then if you see the last pillar identified by the committee, that is institutions. Okay, right. India AI governance framework would benefit from a coordinated whole of government approach to strengthen coherence and effectiveness. At present, responsibilities are distributed across multiple agencies relevant to AI, I'm talking, creating opportunities to enhance across sectoral coordination and strategic alignment. You see, establishing a permanent interagency mechanism that could help oversee national AI strategy, assess emerging risks, guide implementation, and promote a responsible innovation. Right. While institutions such as MeitY, CERTIN, and RBI, they play a vital sector-specific roles. Closer integration of technical expertise on AI policy, safety, and ethics that would further enable robust risk assessment, guideline development, and informed engagement with the industry while at the same time ensuring alignment with India's domestic and international strategic priorities. So that's why an coordinating interagency body is required, right? So existing institutional architecture for AI governance that is identified by the committee. So it has to be dealt under MIT. Okay, that is what the committee is suggesting. Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. It is an apex ministry for development or development and deployment of AI policy. Then NITI Aayog is also there. It is an anchor institution for development of India's national AI strategy, providing strategic vision, policy advisory support, and cross-sectoral coordination on AI adoption and innovation. Okay. Further, the committee recommends that establish an AI governance group, AIGG, to coordinate overall policy development and align AI governance frameworks with the national priorities and strategic objectives. Second recommendation is constitute a technology and policy expert committee, TPEC, to provide expert inputs to the AI governance group on matters of national and international importance relating to AI governance. Third recommendation is provide adequate resources to the India AI Safety Institute to conduct research, develop draft standards and their evaluation metrics and testing methods and benchmarks, collaborate with international bodies, national standard making bodies, and provide technical guidance to regulators and industry. So simply the committee is saying that you further provide funding to India AI Safety Institute to do all these things, right? Okay. So what is whole of government approach? If you have to understand it, it is a coordinated framework where all the relevant ministries, sectoral regulators, standard bodies, and public institutions, they collaborate to develop, implement, and oversee AI policy. That is called as whole of government approach. You see, this ensures alignment of strategies, avoids duplication, and promotes a cohesive governance across the sectors. That is the whole of government approach. Okay. Going further, we come to the third of the four parts of the report. The fourth part is action plan. Okay, the fourth part is action plan. So you see, action plan sets out a phased roadmap for institutionalization of AI governance, risk mitigation, and sustained adoption across the sectors. It aligns the short-term priorities with the medium and long-term reforms to translate governance principles into responsible, scalable, and inclusive outcomes, while at the same time remaining responsive to technological advances and emerging risks. So we will see the recommendations, short-term, medium-term, and long-term recommendations or reforms. You see, short-term recommendations are establish the key governance institutions such as AIGG and TPEC. We have seen above, we have read about them. Second one is develop India specific AI risk assessment and classification frameworks with the sectoral inputs. Third one is conduct a regulatory gap analysis, suggest appropriate legal amendments and rules, and adopt voluntary frameworks to promote responsible innovation and mitigate risks. Next one, publish a master circular with applicable regulations and best practices to support compliance. Next one, prepare the groundwork for AI incidents, database and grievance redressal mechanisms, and develop clear liability regimes. Next one, expand access to foundational infrastructure for AI. Then the last short-term recommendation is launch public awareness programs and operationalize safe and trusted tools. If you see medium-term recommendations, publish common standards such as for content authentication, data integrity, fairness, and cybersecurity. Second recommendation is operationalize national AI incidents database with the localized reporting and feedback loops. Third recommendation is amend the laws as may be needed to address regulatory gaps. Next recommendation is pilot regulatory sandboxes in high risk domains. the last recommendation is support the integration of DPA with AI, DPA with AI with the policy enablers. Then if you see the long-term recommendations, continuously review and monitor the governance framework and activities under this action plan. Second recommendation is adopt new laws to account for emerging risks and capabilities. Third recommendation is expand global diplomatic engagement and contribute to standards development. Last one is conduct horizon scanning and scenario planning to prepare for future risks and opportunities. These are the recommendations given by the committee. Okay. So if you see, the AI governance guidelines are designed to deliver practical impact by strengthening institutions, managing risks effectively, and enabling responsible AI adoption. Okay. While fostering innovation, trust, and accountability across the sectors. Right. So in the short term, if you see coordinated institutions, India-specific risk frameworks, incident reporting mechanisms, voluntary compliance, and public awareness initiatives, they will build trust and governance capacity. Over the medium term, common standards, regulatory sandboxes, updated laws, and the DPA integration, they will support safe innovation and smoother compliance. In the long term, India will establish a balanced, agile, and future-ready AI governance ecosystem with strong accountability, resilience to emerging risks, and enhanced global leadership in responsible AI governance. Okay. So together, all these outcomes will ensure that India's AI ecosystem remains innovative, inclusive, resilient, advancing technological progress while safeguarding the societal interests. Right. We will come to the fourth and final part of this report, that is practical guidelines for industry and the regulators. Okay. What they have to do. Okay. Right. You see, to enable consistent and responsible implementation of the AI governance, governance framework, the committee sets out practical guidance for industry participants involved in developing and deploying AI systems, alongside principles to guide policy formulation and enforcement by the government agencies and the sectoral regulators. Okay. These guidelines are intended to support the innovation adoption while ensuring that risks are addressed in an appropriate and context appropriate manner. Okay. So the guidelines for the participants. Okay. Committee recommends that any person involved in developing or deploying AI systems in India should be guided by the following principles. So what are the principles? The principles are: comply with all Indian laws and regulations, including but not limited to laws relating to information technology, data protection, copyright, consumer protection, offenses against women, children, and other vulnerable groups that may apply to AI systems. Okay, so to all these rules and regulations, people should adhere to. Second recommendation is demonstrate compliance with applicable laws and regulations when called upon to do so by relevant agencies or sectoral regulators. Third recommendation is adopt voluntary measures such as principles, codes, and standards, including with respect to privacy and security, fairness, inclusivity, non-discrimination, transparency, and other technical and organizational measures. Fourth recommendation for the industry actors is create a grievance redressal mechanism to enable reporting of AI-related harms and ensure resolution of such issues within a reasonable period of time or reasonable time frame. Next recommendation is publish transparency reports that evaluate the risk of harm to individuals and society in the Indian context. If they contain any sensitive or proprietary information, the report should be shared confidentially with the relevant regulators. Right. Then the last recommendation is explore the use of techno-legal solutions to mitigate the risks of AI, including privacy enhancing technologies, machine unlearning capabilities, algorithmic auditing systems, and automated bias detection mechanisms. These are the recommendations for the industry actors. Then we will see the suggestions and principles for policy formulators and implementers and regulators. Okay, so first is the twin goals of any proposed AI governance framework is to support innovation, adoption, and the distribution of the technology's benefits to society, while ensuring that potential risks can be addressed through policy instruments. Right. Second one is governance frameworks should be flexible and uh, agile, such that it enables periodic reviews, monitoring, and recalibration based on stakeholder feedback. Next recommendation is when using policy instruments to mitigate risks, regulators should prioritize those where it is real and present harm or a threat to life, livelihood, or well-being. Then next recommendation you see, proposed AI governance frameworks should avoid compliance heavy requirements. For example, mandatory approvals, licensing conditions, etc., unless deemed necessary, right? Next recommendation to them is the appropriate regulator or agency should determine which type of policy instrument is the most useful, relevant, and least burdensome to achieve the desired objective. For example, industry codes, technical standards, advisories, building rules, etc. Sorry, binding rules, etc. Then the last recommendation for the regulators is they should encourage the use of techno-legal approaches to meet policy objectives around privacy, cybersecurity, fairness, transparency, etc., where such policy measures have already been put in place. These are the recommendations for the regulators. You see, these practical guidelines are intended to support consistent, lawful, and responsible development and deployment of AI systems in our country, right? By clarifying expectations for industry and guiding proportionate policy action by regulators, uh, the committee aims to enable innovation and adoption while strengthening trust, accountability, and effective risk management across the sector. Okay, so this is about the India AI, guidelines. Okay, very detailed manner. I tried to mostly read out to you, and wherever possible I have explained them. You see, definitely 100% I am expecting a question on this. Okay, so make sure that you are thorough, you at least remember reasonable points, especially the recommendations, issues part and the recommendations part, so that you can answer the questions in the mains exam reasonably. Always the information is also useful for the prelims examination. They may ask about the different aspects that are mentioned in this report and in this guidelines. So this is all you have to know about the India AI governance guidelines that have been released recently. Okay, so this is it for today. See you next time. Until then, you have a very good time.